your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, here we are again, another day committed to being your consumer advocate, helping you understand your buying decisions. And we've got Mark Haye in studio, 21st Century Financial Group, our financial advisor expert for the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're going to talk about the economy, inflation, and what else is happening out there. Of course, Social Security is a big topic in the news. We're going to hear from Mark here in just a moment. Second half of the program, we've got Michael Johnson with Denison Yachts. We're going to talk about the boating industry and the owner of Amazon, his new mega yacht ship that just got delivered, Bezos. So interesting stories coming up here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. And we're powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Realty. And we like to help our sellers sell faster for more money by utilizing our innovations with radio, TV, internet marketing. Also certified negotiation experts on the team, teaching classes called Win with Sellers and negotiation marketing strategies as well. We got a hot listing here in Palm Harbor. This one's 3058 Mildred Drive in Palm Harbor. Beautiful property, waterfront on Lake Tarpon. And this is a canal home. You've got a private boat dock with a pool, with a screened-in pool as well. 1,380 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. 3058 Mildred Drive in Palm Harbor, corner lot location on Lake Tarpon. Lake Tarpon is the largest lake in all of Tampa Bay, one of the largest lakes in Central Florida for that matter as well. Beautiful listing on Mildred Drive. Another hot listing is 14 Baywood Drive, Palm Harbor. This is one of my favorite listings also. This is a beautiful home. It's listed above $800,000, 2913 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3-bath. You got a completely remodeled 3-story home, wood-burning fireplace in the living room, vaulted ceilings, gorgeous property here. And what I love about this community is right down the road, you have a community boat dock and boat ramp. So you've got bay access, live that Florida lifestyle to the fullest. A couple of waterfront property listings there from the Platinum MVP team. And you can see all of our listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com. That's right. All right, Mark Haye in the house, 21st Century Financial Group. There's a lot going on, man. It's like we were talking a little bit pre-game here, and there's just so many different things to talk about between politics, news, of course, the election, and then just the economy is where we want to focus here today.
Absolutely. There's just so much to talk about. It's where do you begin?
Yeah.
What I was going to just kind of jump right in was, again, Social Security. It's a big topic, and Joe Biden rolled out a $6.2 trillion budget, and Senator Cassidy and Janet Yellen got into it last week. I don't know if everybody saw it, but got into it pretty good last week about the budget. And inside that budget is nothing with Social Security. So $6.2 trillion, but nothing to fix Social Security. And the problem is now we know by 2030 there's going to be no more money in Social Security.
All the money printed, you can't come out. I mean, how much money have they printed in the last 4 or 5 years, right? How much money is it?
I mean, insane.
It's close to $6 trillion
we just sent
now?
another $2.6 billion to Ukraine for weapons again.
Yeah.
Just in the last week and a half. It's just insane amount of money. But going back to that exchange, it was very interesting because Senator Cassidy was asking Janet Yellen, what are we doing? We have 7, maybe 8 years left of Social Security, and if we do nothing,
right.
Okay, we don't raise taxes, we don't do anything, people are going to lose a minimum of 25% of their benefits overnight. A lot of people, their whole retirement plan is Social Security, and if you cut 25% of that from their income, now you got a bunch of people in poverty.
Yeah, and not to mention the inflation, so now you're losing 25% there and another 25% on the other side.
Exactly, and so he pressed her pretty hard and asking, what do we got to do to shore up Social Security and make sure that it doesn't run out. And honestly, she really couldn't answer it because they don't have any kind of budget or math to go and back it up and say, hey, this is how much it's going to be. But one thing that was suggested is President Joe Biden said anybody making over $400,000 would pay, X amount of dollars in taxes. What is that? 90%. So if you make over $400,000, anything over $400,000 is going to be 90% taxed. It's still not enough to save Social Security.
A 90% tax?
At 90% of anybody making over $400,000.
Jeez.
Okay, so then they said, okay, at 102%, we could start saving Social Security. Well, no one's going to work for free and just give the money away.
Right.
So now it's going down to $250,000. So if you make anything over $250,000, they're talking about 90% would have to be taxed
above the 250.
Above the 250, just to save Social Security at this point.
Talk about communism, socialism. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. So if people really think that that's going to happen, it's not. So what's going to happen is everybody's tax rate is going to be affected.
Right.
And we've talked about it. Tax rates are going to have to double just to maintain what we're doing as a nation. Entitlement programs. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid take 50% of our budget, which is right now it's happening. We're going to have to double our taxes just to maintain what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk about all the time. Get into a 0% tax bracket in retirement. Start converting now, while the taxes are relatively low.
Right.
Because if it goes to 45% across the board, which is not unreasonable, and you're retired, again, if you're at a 20% tax bracket and now it's 40, you just lost half of your income, just overnight. And so that taxes is a big deal when it comes to retirement planning. And with this whole thing of the dollar, you got India and you got Russia and you got China and you got Brazil and Saudi Arabia and Iran all coming off the dollar.
Yep.
We've never seen this in our lifetime.
Right.
And there's nobody that can predict what's going to happen and what's the aftermath of this.
Yep.
We don't have an answer. I can't sit here and say what's going to happen if everybody comes off the dollar, but I can't imagine it's going to be good.
No.
I can't imagine.
Well, if we lose status as the United States world, as the world's currency with the U.S. dollar, depending on where you look, you see different sources, you see different, opinions. There's a petrodollar being floated. There's one with Brazil, India, China, Russia. I forgot the name. There's an acronym for that. But yeah, it is scary to see where they're going. Also, Tucker did an episode last night too, where he was talking about digital currencies or one of the shows there, one of the shows on the lineup. But yeah, it's the declare a war on cash is what he's saying here with Tulsi Gabbard. He interviewed her. The feds declare war on cash. So yeah, that's it's coming. It's here. I mean, and then you see the potential for a digital currency, and what's scary, for Christians too, is this is right out of the back of the Bible stuff. This is Revelations playing out. The whole trans movement is so demonic, and there's lots of signs towards this end of the world type scenario playing out, man.
Well, you said about Revelations. I'm just going to piggyback that. In Revelations, not to get political or not to get into too much religion, but it talked about that China will have a 200-man army. And we're talking about Armageddon. We're talking about Revelations.
Right.
Well, when the book was written, there wasn't 200 million people on the planet.
Right.
So for them to know that, well, guess what China has today?
Oh, yeah.
A 200 million man army, which, like you said, is kind of playing out in front of us, which is interesting to see. But them going off the dollar, and the United States is not mentioned in the Bible. And there's probably a reason why it's not mentioned. As we can see, I think we're literally watching an empire crumble in front of our eyes. I don't think we'll have very good leadership over the last few decades as far as career politicians go, which is another reason why we need term limits. And unfortunately, it seems like we're never going to get it because they got to vote themselves out
exactly
of having term limits. But you can't just have people in their 40-some years just sitting there and all they care about is being reelected, and not actually doing the work that we need done as Americans.
Yeah.
And love or hate Trump, I just like put America first slogan. Like, why can't we just have that as our mantra? Like, we're going to put America first.
Yep.
And we're going to make sure Americans are protected or the entitlements are funded or the schools are safe. These schools that are being shot up. Why can't we put a security guard in there, an armed guard in every school? Yep. We talk about, it costs too much. Let's say it costs $10 billion a year. Well, I'm sure we can find $10 billion a year.
As much money as they're printing, they could find some money.
I'm sure we can find it, And you look at, our government is the largest it's ever been in our history. Yep. Okay? And I think that as a country, we are in a tipping point when it comes to security and drugs and taxes and crime. And I just think we're at a tipping point. And if you look at our government, as big as it is and as much money as it's bringing in via taxes, and we still can't have these entitlements, have the money to do it, it's scary. And so that's why it's always important, take ownership of your lives, take ownership of your retirement, because we're in our 40s. I don't see Social Security being there for you and I.
Right.
I just can't fathom 20, 30 years from now that there's going to be any money left to put into the Social Security for us to take out.
Yeah.
Because less and less people are putting in, more and more people are or taken out because 10,000 baby boomers a day are retiring, and so it's just interesting for me to even think that's going to be something. But there's going to be some drastic changes in Social Security, and I think that some things are going to be pushing retirement age back again. I don't know if you saw in France with all the riots that are happening with the citizens and BlackRock, and the reason they're doing it is because the retirement age is 62 and they need to raise it to 64.
Yep.
And they're going to get away from the pensions. Government provides pensions for the citizens. They're going to get away with that. So the people are uprising. The same thing is going to happen here. You start taking away 25% of Social Security benefits or taking away the benefits altogether, and you're raising retirement age from 67 to 70, let's say, people are going to be upset about it, and it's going to happen. But it needs to happen because we just don't have any money. You know, so it needs to push the years back. So let's say 70 is retirement age. But another thing that's probably going to happen is this income limit. They talk about $250,000, and we're going to tax 90%. Well, they're going to do the same thing with Social Security. If you make X amount of dollars, let's call it $100,000 a year or $250,000, you're not getting Social Security. You know, because you make enough money. So we're going to give Social Security to the ones that need it. You know, you're making too much money, so you're going to see a lot of these things changing. But the problem is these politicians don't want to go there because of political suicide.
Right.
You know, you start
talking
about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and making cuts, and it's going to be painful cuts. But there's only two ways to do it. You're going to make cuts, or you're going to raise taxes, or you're going to do a little of both. Otherwise, it's going to be out of money. Yeah. And it is what it is at this point. And unfortunately, our politicians have not served us correctly when it comes to that.
That's right. It's evident in a lot of different areas. You know, the most notable, or to me at least, is these self-defense cases. There was another case, Daniel Perry, with the riots, in a very similar case to self-defense, like Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse was a clear-cut 100% self-defense case. But to me, it's these crooked DAs that are allowing crime to happen, and they're also picking and choosing winners, and they're letting these criminals, they're emboldening these criminals in these different states. You mentioned, you know, there might be an uprising. The thing that's scary about that is, in certain districts, certain areas, blue states, blue cities, we know that there's not going to be equal law. Justice is supposed to be blind. We know that's not going to happen based on some of these different cases. I want to touch on that Daniel Perry case on the flip side, because this guy was completely defending himself, and he got actually a guilty verdict. He's got to serve some jail time. The governor of Texas may issue him a pardon, but I want to talk about that. I want to talk also about the cost of children. So there's also cost of helping adult children. That's another area that people are forgetting about. And you had talked about the FILIA laws too before. So we're talking with Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group, right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're going to come back with more of that information. Also, touch on a couple of these stories, these current events, things happening out there, and how you can live a better life. Reach out to the hotline, 727-263-3707, if you'd like to get expert advice on your retirement financial questions, 727-263-3707. And we'll be right back here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
And offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment Division as well. We have a very unique strategy through our sports and entertainment connections with Keller Williams Realty, helping you win when you're buying, selling, or investing here in Tampa Bay. We got a hot listing here at 4404 Orient Road in Tampa. This is a property that is this is a great commercial asset here. It's a passive income opportunity because you've got all the units that are currently rented, 5 units rented. It's $1.3 million listing of mine, 4404 Orient Road in Tampa, 6,000 plus square feet, well-built office building on Orient Road, just down the road from the casino. 6023 Beverly Drive in Hudson. This is another waterfront beauty from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. This property is in Pasco County. Beverly Drive in Hudson, 6023 is a home that has a private boat dock. You've got bay access, 1856 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 bath, updated kitchen as well. Beautiful property right here in Tampa Bay, and you can see all of our real estate listings. And if you'd like to have your listing featured as well, all you have to do is reach out. Platinum MVP team.kw.com.
This is God's country.
All right, Mark Haye in studio here for a few more minutes. I want to jump into this case that we were talking about because, if things starts hitting the fan, as they say, we're going to need to defend ourselves, and this is something that is a tragedy that is unfolding in Texas.
What is the story with Daniel Perry? Who is Daniel Perry, and why is this catching the media's attention?
Well, Charlie, Daniel Perry is another one of the individuals who, like Kyle Rittenhouse, was involved in these riots of 2020, which engulfed the nation. Pretty much every single major city saw these. Now, while Kyle Rittenhouse was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and was forced to use an AR-15 to defend himself against a violent mob, this was a situation where an individual, a Boogaloo boy, who was marching with the BLM rioters. Now, Boogaloo, they're an anti-government organization that are also pro-BLM. So the media will tell you that Boogaloos are all far right, but the pro-BLM side and the complete anti-government, anti-police side doesn't necessarily make them fit one of the boxes just nicely. So this guy's marching with the BLM rioters. Daniel Perry is a serving U.S. sergeant in the U.S. Army, and his car is driving Uber on the side, trying to make a few extra bucks. His car gets surrounded by these guys, and this individual, Garrett Foster, had been carrying and actually slung around 2-point sling of an AK-47, approaches Perry's car at the low ready. Perry claims that the barrel started to move up. He then withdrew his sidearm, fired 5 shots, and shot and killed Foster, and then drove away in his car.
Self-defense should be self-defense, and unfortunately, we saw how they twisted the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And luckily, thank God they did the right thing. The jury did the right thing there. But in this case, it was a crooked Soros-appointed DA, and now the governor saying that he would pardon this gentleman who seems to be an upstanding citizen. I mean, he's in his car, he's surrounded by all these weirdos and these non-normal people. So anyways, your reaction there, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that happened, and that one thing people don't understand is the government has to take the guns away from the citizens. That's how you get complete control.
Exactly.
And that's why we have the Second Amendment. It's not really to protect yourself from someone breaking in, it's to protect yourself from a tyrannical government.
Right.
And people lost that, because we saw in COVID, we saw what our government can do.
Happen.
Yeah. And if we don't have weapons to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government, it just gets worse fast.
Yep.
We saw in Australia, and,
that's right.
and certainly, obviously, here. And then you take this scenario with this gentleman, which is unfortunate, but you have to be able to defend yourself.
Yep.
And if someone has an AK-47, I don't care if it's pointing at him or not. But, man, you don't need to come up in my car and have an AK-47 strapped to you and think that I'm not going to fear my life.
Exactly.
Or my family's life. You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
And luckily we have a good governor here in Florida who now we can carry without a concealed weapons license.
No paperwork.
So, and I don't think it's irresponsible. I think that, people that have a gun, legally have a gun. I'm talking about illegal criminals, but legally have a gun. They're not out there just firing a gun away.
Exactly.
They're keeping it to protect themselves, their family, and I think that it's only going to make Florida safer. I don't think it's going to do the opposite of what these politicians want you to believe, but I think it's going to make it safer. And you take these school shootings, if just one person had a weapon in that school, you're going to save lives.
Exactly.
A ton of lives.
Yep.
And you're going to stop people from thinking about going to these schools anymore.
Yep.
Because everybody has a weapon now. It's funny how these people go and shoot up these gun-free zones.
Exactly.
Banks and schools and okay, why don't you go with somewhere that they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Because first of all, they're cowards.
Yep.
That's why they're choosing that.
Yep.
And they don't want to go into somewhere where they're going to have to defend themselves too. And make it difficult. So you got to have the right to bear arms, and the Second Amendment is there to protect ourselves from a government that could be tyrannical. And we can't lose sight of that.
That's true.
And so it's unfortunate.
Here's another story, Mark. Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. I found this one. This was an interesting story online. It was the cost of helping adult children. Most parents are lending their children a helping hand these days, with 68% saying that they're making financial sacrifices to do so, a Bankrate survey finds. 55% say they skipped a financial milestone to help. 51% dug into emergency savings. 49% postponed paying down down debt, 43% rated retirement savings. While the fastest inflation in 4 decades following a pandemic presents clear challenges to young adults, parents risk needing help themselves later. Experts advise setting expectations when children are needing help and position for help.
Yep, and that's one thing that we focus on too is when you go to retirement, you're going to have to plan for long-term care, health care, et cetera, because it's a big expenditure in retirement. And a lot of times you'll meet with people and they'll just kind of be sarcastic and say, well, I'm just going to move with my kids and they're going to take care of me.
Right.
Okay, well, do they know that? Do they know that they need to plan that for retirement? Because in retirement, just the cost of health care and premiums and going to a doctor, that's $250,000 over a retirement plan.
Yeah, co-pays.
Let alone a long-term care, Alzheimer's, dementia. And we talked about the FILIA laws being enforced, and I think it's like 30 states now. But the kids are going to have to pay for this. Every state's going to do the FILIA laws. What that means if the parents have unpaid health care debts, long-term care debts, it goes down to the kids, and they got to pay that.
Wow.
Okay? It's not going away. And so we're seeing two things happen. Parents moving in with kids and grown-ups moving in with parents right now.
Right.
Just because they can't afford things, inflation, taxes, loss of income, loss of job, a lot of layoffs right now with the tech companies, Amazons and everything else. So there's a lot happening that, unfortunately, that is something that is burdening families. But that's why you work with a planner. Again, we do all this. So take ownership. It doesn't cost you anything to meet with myself or anybody from my team to do this kind of work, and we cover all of it.
And get a review too.
Get
right,
a
Mark?
review. Get a review. Look at your estate plan. Make sure everything is buttoned up. Make sure you got the proper LLCs. Make sure you got proper beneficiaries. Because the last thing you want to do is go through probate. Last thing you want to do is forget something like, I forgot to do the long-term care planning. You're right, and to decimate all of your retirement plan that you've saved your whole life for you and your wife. You know.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's important. It's important to take ownership and reach out to us, and certainly do that anytime.
And now more than ever, reach out, 727-263-3707. Call. It's a free consultation. Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group, longtime friend of the Consumer Quarterback Show, financial advising expert Mark Haye, 727-263-3707. Mark, always a pleasure having you, man.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
stuff
day.
There. My pleasure. All right, coming up, Michael Johnson, Denison Yachts. We're going to talk about yachting, boating, boater safety, and Bezos buys a new big ship, a big yacht. Talk about that here coming up on the show. And go to our social media. Support us online at Brandon Rhymes1 on Instagram, Twitter, Getter, all the sites, and the YouTube channel out there as well. Brandon Rhymes Realty. We'll be right back. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks.